here today. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Come, whoever you are. Come join us on this glorious day to hear some enlightening words and some moving words from the Caring Place today. I had an experience that I want to share with you that happened this week. Lou and I took a quick trip to Ruidoso, and it was raining one day, and after the rain, we decided we wanted to have a drive out in the country. It's very mountainous there. And so we were ascending a large mountain, and maybe 7,000, 8,000 feet in elevation. And I'm on the side where the mountain's dropping off, which I don't like. But it's one of these, you're doing the zigzagging and the hairpin turning. And we start to come up, and all of a sudden we see a rainbow. And like many of you, I imagine, we got excited. We're pulling out the cell phone, because you know how rainbows are, pretty quick appearing and disappearing. This rainbow lasted and lasted and lasted for minutes upon minutes, every turn. So we get to a point in the road, and we're able to pull over, and we step out. And I want you to see what we saw in that moment. Frank? The colors of that rainbow in the sky, I swear, were as vivid as this flag, just translucent, which that amazed us as it was. The fact that it was double pleasure. I felt like I had a mountaintop experience. I've been to the top of the mountain. I saw the arc of justice bending. I've never seen a rainbow from the very beginning all the way to the end. And for me, I felt like it was affirmation of what we do here in our community, our church, trying to bend that arc of justice here. And my friends, that leads me to a lot of the announcements, which are very social justice oriented. Today is our Social Justice Sunday. It's our second one. We're still trying, new things and tweaking what we're doing, which means this will be a shortened service, kind of condensed version, and then we will transition within the body of the service to a chat session. We've got Rita Turner here from the Caring Place. And I know many of you have volunteered, and so we'll talk about that later. But it's our way of highlighting some of the justice issues that our congregation has chosen to raise awareness and educate on. Just quickly, those of you that are seated behind some chairs may have seen something new appear. Thank you for those that have worked on this, our committees, and Clara and Neil. And so if you are a first-time visitor or a repeat visitor and you want to know a little more information, we always welcome to have that opportunity to chat with you and know that you're here. Welcome. You probably got some handouts today announcing a few things, which I'll go over more in detail at the end of our service. But one thing I did want to remind you now is next Sunday, immediately following our service, we are going to dedicate our new peace pool that's on our property. So if you don't know where it is, I challenge you today to walk around a little bit and see if you can find it. But we hope you'll join us for the dedication of our peace pool and the dedication of ourselves to peace in our community. And with that, I think we are ready to settle in and begin. Whether you are here in person or you're participating online, we want you to know that you are welcome here. We're glad you joined us today. We are the San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. September 20th has been declared as the Unitarian Universalist Day, so look at your calendar on September 20th and think of us. I am Michelle Augustine. My pronouns are she and her. And I recognize that we are standing on the land of the Tonkawa. I serve with 7 other members on our social justice team. You know that we do welcome all, and we are here to promote personal and spiritual growth and development, and we want to work for a just, peaceful, and sustainable world together. We are reminded today of the words by Desmond Tutu. He says, "We are made for goodness. We are made for love. We are made for friendliness. We are made for all things beautiful that we see and experience. We are made to tell the world that there are no outsiders. All are welcome. Black, white, red, yellow, rich, poor, educated, uneducated, male, female, trans, LGBTQ, all are welcome. We all belong to this family, the human family." For this Sunday, we're focusing our attention on the challenges of living out the values of compassion and justice that stand at the heart of our faith tradition. One of these challenges is our spiritual calling to care for the least among us in the terms of our abilities to care for not only ourselves, but for others to have adequate housing, food, clothing, and employment. We remember today that all great religions teach the importance of loving our neighbors, and especially those in need among us. Christianity rests on the belief that the devotion to God necessitates caring for the sick, the poor, the imprisoned, and the oppressed. Buddhism teaches the love of mankind as its highest form of righteousness. Islam requires a tithe of 1/10 of your income to be given to those in need. And the Jewish religion urges its followers to assist the poor and practice charity. Lou?
I like this feeling. We've come here today being mindful. I picked up the newspaper this morning, and the world we live in, at least in Texas, says the word for today is acquit. We're here this morning in this place to listen and to affirm other words. So we light our chalice this morning. We're lighting it with this understanding that we're here to celebrate what unites us as Unitarian Universalists. That is, that we are a community of faith with open minds. We are a community of faith with loving hearts. We're a community of faith with helping hands. And so it is in this light that we gather here today. And our song today is not quite what Ken Paxton is singing. I get by with a little help from my friends. We're singing When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. It's number 1008 in the little teal hymnal, but the words we hope are projected. Would you stand if you're able and let us sing this together?
When our heart is in a holy place,
Thank you. We come out of a world that has a lot of different kind of views about life and its values, and we come to share a set of common values here in this place. We call this an affirmation. So I'm inviting you to join with me in this responsive affirmation that we say as a reminder of what we believe, what values we affirm when we gather in this place. The doctrine of this church is love. We are here to love. The quest for truth is its sacrament. We are here to learn. And service is its prayer. We are here to care for others. To dwell together in peace. We are here to live in peace. To seek knowledge and freedom. We are here to honor our differences. To serve humanity in fellowship. To the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. We are here to grow. Thus we do covenant with each other. This we promise to do together. Amen. Now we have a wonder box. Normally we would have Karina here, but we have a very short version of the wonder box today that Michelle's doing. It's a play on words.
Yes, amazing love and grace. For those that you don't know, because our last names are different, I'm married to him. Now, we know that there are many things in this world and life that are unknowable and maybe beyond our human understandings. Welcome, please come forward. And so, but we can know what's in this wonder box. And may I have your help? Okay. Could you shake this for me? Come on up. Can you come all the way? Do you mind standing on this? Would that be all right? There you go. Can you shake it so they can hear it? Toss it sideways, maybe. Ooh. Ooh. Do it again. All right. We're ready for some guesses. Would you say it's heavy? It's a little bit heavy. A rock?
Also indictments.
Indictments? What did you say, Spoon?
Bacon.
Pardon me?
Bacon.
Bacon? Okay. That's a pretty wild guess in there. Any other guesses? What might be heavy? Oh, books. That's a good one, isn't it? A cell phone. A dishwasher for the kitchen? Woo! Man, they're really hopeful today. Would you do me the honor of opening that? All right, and let's show them what it is. Oh, this is what every household should have, some black beans, right? Thank you very much. Actually, would you take that to the back table, and we'll put it on our pantry later. Would that be all right, Spoon? All right. Thank you for being a helper today, Annika. All right. You can go back to the table. Maybe you could draw some food for me. Oh, they appreciated your assistance. Dishwasher. Well, we're going to play another video for you. Let's see if the dishwasher's in this story, shall we? Thank you.
Maddie's Fridge, written by Lois Brandt, illustrated by Vin Vogel, published by Flashlight Press. Today, we are listening to a shortened, abridged version of this story. When Sophia and Maddie played at the park, they stretched their toes to the sky. They climbed to the top of the ladder and flew off the end of the slide. They stayed until the buildings grew long, shadows, and even the taxis stopped honking. This day, Maddie wanted to play on the climbing wall next, but Sophia said, "No way, I can't reach." "Yes way," said Maddie as she scooted up to the top of the wall. "Your turn." Sophia put a foot on the bottom rock and stretched, but she couldn't reach the next hold. Then her stomach growled. "I give up. Let's get a snack." "No way," said Maddie. "Let's stay here." But Sophia ran to Maddie's building and raced up the stairs. Wait, said Maddie as she ran after her. Maddie was the best climber, but Sophia was the fastest runner. Sophia swung open Maddie's fridge. What have you got? She asked. We have milk, said Maddie, but I'm saving it for Ryan. He's little. Why doesn't your mom go to the store? Sophia asked. We don't have enough money. But what if you get hungry? We have some bread. I guess I'll go home to eat, Sophia said. Please don't tell anyone, Maddie said. Okay. Promise? I promise. Sophia ran home past the bookstore and the grocery store. The sun was beginning to set. Good timing, her mom said. Dinner's almost ready. Sophia opened the refrigerator door. It was full of milk and eggs and tortillas and cheese, lettuce and jam and salsa and tofu, and even half a can of dog food. Here you go, Mom said. They had a wonderful meal of fish and rice. Maddie and Ryan only had some bread and a small carton of milk. Sophia couldn't tell Mom. She had to keep her promise to Maddie. Is fish good for kids? She asked. Yes, said her mom. And that night, Sophia had an idea. Yuck, Maddie said the next day. Fish may be good for kids, but not for backpacks. That day they played on the climbing wall again. And again, Maddie got to the top, but not Sophia. That night, Sophia, her mom, and her little brother Luis had frittata made from eggs and potato. Maddie and Ryan still had an empty refrigerator. Sophia couldn't ask for help. That would break her promise. She had to try again. Are eggs good for kids? Yes, said her mom. Eggs are good for you. So after dinner, Sophia packed eggs for Maddie and Ryan. Yuck, Maddie said. Eggs may be good for kids, but not for backpacks. Again, they raced to the climbing wall. Sophia got there first, but Maddie shot past her to the top of the wall. Impossible, Sophia said. That night, Sophia and her family had burritos, and Maddie and Ryan still had an empty fridge. Sophia wished she hadn't promised Maddie. Are burritos good for kids? She asked. Burritos are very good for you, said her mom. So Sophia put 2 burritos in her backpack, along with tortillas, beans, cheese, and even more milk. The next day, Maddie was nervous when Sophia opened her backpack. But it turns out, burritos are good for kids and good for backpacks. Do you want some milk? Sophia asked. Thanks, Maddie said, but I'll save the milk for Ryan. When they got to the climbing wall that day, Sophia won as usual, but made it to the top because Maddie gave her a hand. Thanks for helping me, Maddie. I couldn't do it alone, Sophia said. That's what friends are for, Maddie shrugged. When Sophia got home that day and looked again at her fridge full of all those good foods, she thought again about the small amount of food in Maddie's. She thought and thought and thought. Sophia didn't want to break her promise, but she couldn't help Maddie alone. Sophia told. She hoped Maddie wouldn't be mad. I'm glad you told me, her mom said. Let's see what we can do together. And they loaded grocery bags with milk and flour, sugar, oil, carrots, and frozen meat and vegetables. At Maddie's apartment, the moms talked. Sophia and Maddie ran to the park. You broke your promise, Maddie said. I'm sorry, Sophia said. Are you mad? A promise is important. You're more important. I wanted you to have milk too. Maddie smiled. Are we still friends? Sophia asked. Always, Maddie said. Double always, Sophia said. And then, as they went back home, Sophia and Maddie raced up the stairs. Sophia slowed down so they could run together. That's what friends are for. The end.
That's what friends are for. Are we friends? It is a fact that 1 out of 5 children in the United States is at risk for having an empty fridge, like Maddie. 1 in 5. At St. Gabriel, we want to help that problem. That's why we have our little food pantry out on Hutto Street, and why you, as friends, bring donations to stock that little pantry. And that's why we've invited Rita Turner today from the Caring Place, so that we can be friends and address the hunger issue here in our local communities. So let us keep thinking of how we can be of help, be a good neighbor. I invite you adults to also draw pictures of food. We'd like to use those pictures on our bulletin board for our food pantry announcements. And I'm going to ask Lou now to come forward and offer you a little homily.
I know some of you are wondering, did we look for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? No, we felt like we have all that we need in life, and we just left it there for someone else to find. But if you want the coordinates of where we were on that mountain, I will give it to you. This morning, I want us to think for a minute about abundance and scarcity. Our world has a lot of ideas about abundance and scarcity, but we're here to think about those in a little different terms. I'm going to read you a little story. I hope some of you who are maybe a little apoplectic about the Bible, just to be patient, don't break out in hives. It's just a little short story. It goes like this. Jesus left the place that he was and went off to a territory near the cities of Tyre and Sidon. Think of LA and San Francisco, their port cities. A Canaanite woman who lived in that region came to him. Think of a Muslim woman in the Jewish land. "Son of David," she cried, "have mercy on me, sir. My daughter has a demon and is in a terrible condition." But Jesus did not say a word to her. His disciples came to him and begged him, "Send her away. She is following us and making all of this noise." Then Jesus replied, "I have been sent only to the lost sheep of the people of Israel." But at this point, the woman came and fell at his feet. "Help me, sir," she said. And Jesus answered, "It isn't right to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." "That's true, sir," she answered. "But even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." So Jesus answered her, "You are a woman of great faith. What you want will be done for you." And in that very moment, her daughter was healed. I want to invite you not to get hung up on miracles today. Instead, I want to ask you to consider for the moment the issue about a spiritual conversion. I know that UUs aren't comfortable with that old Christian language about the redemptive experience of somehow being converted. But I want to suggest to you, at least for a brief moment this morning, that this conversion experience may actually be why all of us, in some ways, are fundamentally here this morning. For some kind of change in heart or mind, at least in terms of what the world is trying to tell us to do and to be. The humorist Garrison Keillor has long been a source of entertainment and even at times inspiration for me. I read his weekly column that I signed up to get. It's always entertaining. But recently he talked about going to the church in New York where he goes, and he heard the pastor preach on this particular story from the New Testament about Jesus rebuking this Canaanite woman who was asking him for help. And Keillor says, the Lord here sounds like a jerk. In his response to her, but she persists and persuades Jesus that he wasn't sent only for his people, but for the whole world. Then Keillor makes what I found to be a rather astonishing point about this particular story. His observation was that the first Christian to ever get converted was Jesus himself. So it got me wondering, what does it take to get someone, maybe even me, to change our hearts and minds when we're stuck in a tradition or we're stuck in a habit or a particular way of living based on a set of values that we inherited? How do you get someone to make a positive change? How do you get someone converted to be better than we might be now? I can still remember as an associate pastor years ago going with my youth group to a youth conference. We were in Oklahoma. I was surprised that they invited this old Presbyterian minister to come preach at that youth conference. And I read that the title of his sermon was Converted at Every Revival. He told a story about a local drunk in his hometown in Oklahoma who would hang around the courthouse every day, panhandling for money, if he could get it, from those going in and out of the courthouse to feed his alcoholic addiction. The preacher noted that the town drunk's name was Roy, and Roy would get sober every year by going to a tent revival that came to the little town. People who didn't normally go to church would make their way out of curiosity sometimes. They could hear all the singing and all the shouting. And Roy knew about this, and he would go every year. And after being there for several nights, Roy would clean himself up. But then when he would go back downtown, someone would see him and say, "Hey, Roy, I heard you got converted last night at the revival. You want to celebrate, I bet." And they'd take a quarter out of their pocket and say, "Here, go buy yourself something to drink." And I remember that old Presbyterian minister asking all of these kids at that conference a question after telling this story. Why do you think Roy never got converted at a revival? This question came to mind recently for me in a group discussion I was having from some folks here in Georgetown about the idea of planning a local climate change summit to try to get more people in our community to address what some of us are concerned about with global warming and the scarcity of water that we now are facing, and how to make adaptive measures to deal with the excessive heat that seems to be a pattern. Oddly enough, the challenge everyone in the conversation identified was around how to convert the climate change deniers. and the apathetic residents here who think we got endless amounts of water. So how do you motivate these people, we wondered, to change their hearts and minds about this climate change issue? What do? We just tell them simply what UUs believe is important with respect to the interdependence of the web of life. Is that going to do it? Let's admit it. Conversion for any of us is difficult when you think you are right and somebody else is misguided. I've been trying to convince Michelle for over 20 years now that our marriage would be better than what it is now if she would just change her attitude on occasion and recognize that I make the best decisions. The only problem is, I've discovered, Michelle doesn't want to be converted to my way of thinking or behaving. So how do you go about converting someone who's stuck in their ways or think that they know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth on every issue that confronts them, whether it's climate change or poverty or justice or racism in America, or why a narcissistic ex-president now with criminal records and indictments more than Al Capone would be somehow the best choice for this nation? How are you going to change somebody? Some of us actually have to get converted in this world when it comes to the ideas about abundance and scarcity of resources. The world, at least as I hear it, says there's a scarcity of all the good things in life. There's not enough to go around. You have to be careful. But this story that I read this morning says that this woman asked Jesus rather appreciatively. She wasn't demanding, she wasn't pleading. She just acknowledged that, yes, there are limited resources to help those in need. She simply asked Jesus to provide the minimum help he could to address a particular need that she had. That's all the Caring Place asks us to do. Ask faith communities in Georgetown to do what we can. The message is still the same. Can you help us with those in need who are in crisis in some way? Do you have enough resources? Is there enough abundance in your world? Evidently, Jesus got converted in this story when he understood that he didn't have to solve every need that came his way, but in the face of that one need, he responded. Do you think that we might also be converted to see a response to people in need in the same way? That's what I hear the Caring Place asking us to do. One of the things we talk about when we come here is responding in faith to make the world a more compassionate, just, equitable world around us. And there are a lot of ways to do that. And one of the ways we do that is through several of the programs we have. But we also have to continue to pay for this building, enjoy this air conditioning. And so one of the ways that we do that is by asking folks in the congregation to make an offering every Sunday. This morning, we're going to collect another offering. You don't have to give, no responsibility that's expected, but if you can, share of your resources. We ask you to do it now. Thank you, Jackie and Joe. This is the time when the service every week where we share joys and concerns. This is your opportunity to share what's on your heart or minds today. Michelle's got the microphone. If you can just raise your hand and we'll call on you to share that. So she's ready. Anybody have it? Linda's got one. Thank you, Linda.
For 8 years, and he wanted to hear what Rita had to say. 2, I want to thank all of you for your well wishes. And I had gallbladder surgery last week, and believe it or not, here I am, pain-free. It's amazing. So I'm very grateful to all of you. Thank you.
Yeah. Glad you're here, Hans.
You two are an incredible couple.
Anybody else? In the back.
That's okay.
Tuesday is National
It's what?
Tuesday is National Voter Registration.
Tuesday is National Voter Registration Day, and actually our public library is having an event, so I will go over that announcement at the end as well. Thank you for bringing that up. Any other joys or concerns? John?
John, I don't know you that well. We've talked a few times, but I know you've had some trials with your health recently, and I just want to say I'm really glad to see you here today.
In a big mood, John. Yeah, good.
On behalf of those of us who have recently had surgeries, Beth, one, Linda, one, I've been one, we are grateful for the healing that the medical profession can provide, and we give thanks for that. So we bring all of our thanksgivings, whatever you have in your heart today that you're grateful for, the abundance of life that you may have been experiencing. We give thanks for those. That's why we're here. For those heartaches, for those fears, for those injustices that trouble you, we hold those up today as well in the name of love and peace and justice. My wife is suggesting, for the sake of time, we don't bore you anymore with any of these other things that she wanted to include. So we're going to introduce and have us sing a new hymn. Don't worry. We have a person who can sing who's going to lead us in this. Jackie's going to play this through. We found a hymn book buried back here, Inclusive Songs for Resistance and Social Action. And since Michelle thought this is a social action Sunday, she thumbed through here. It's a familiar tune. You'll hear this, but Bob's going to lead us through singing that, and the words will be projected. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. I'll sing through it completely once, and then we will all join in, and we will sing all three verses. I'll try to sing, okay? Come, gather now in circles, gather the people everywhere. Come, gather now in circles, Sophia's peace to share. Sophia's wisdom preaches her truth from age to age. She sends her urgent message through prophet and through sage. Everybody, go gather now in circles, gather the people everywhere. Go gather now in circles, Sophia's peace to share. Verse 1. Sophia's wisdom preaches her truth from age to age. She sends her urgent message through prophet and through sage. Go gather now in circles, gather the people everywhere. Come, gather now in circles, Sophia's peace to share. How long must wisdom cry out before injustice fails? Though scoffed and scorned she labors, till loving care prevails. Come, gather now in circles, gather the people everywhere. Come, gather now in circles, Sophia's peace to share. Sophia's wisdom calls us to join her work in peace, to follow paths of justice, her righteousness increase. Come, now in circles, Sophia's peace to share. Good job.
So one of the things that we want to share with you today, those of us who are on the Social Justice Committee, is to hear about the work going on here in our community that we've been supportive of for a number of years, continue to be, with the Caring Place. I'm trusting that many of you know about the Caring Place, but if you don't, you're going to hear something about it today. Michelle's going to interview Rita Turner, who's a community liaison with the Caring Place. They're going to sit up here, and
That's for me.
and the microphone got off where? Oh, you left it over there. So they're going to have a short little interview here so you can learn a little bit about the Caring Place and what's going on there and how we can be of support.
How many of you have volunteered at the Caring Place? Hans, I know you're 8. Chuck, yeah? How many of you donated items to many of us? Yeah, look at that. Not surprising, is it? And you know, we used to have the big blue barrel here for many years throughout the different times collecting food. So, Rita, thank you. Thanks for having me. So, I got some questions for you, and you just say whatever you want to say. Tell me a little bit about who you serve and what kind of help do they get at the Caring Place. Is it income-based? Do they have to prove their income and stuff like that?
So we serve people in Georgetown and northern Williamson County who are in financial crisis. So we are not income-based. So a family can make, let's say, $60,000, which is going to send them out of a lot of our state programs, but they can come in and say, hey, here's our crisis. One of our children got sick, has cancer, we're going back and forth appointments. They just have to prove a crisis to us. We can help with rent, utilities, some medical expenses. We have a new transportation program that we do now where families can come in, they get approved for a 12-month time, but they can come in and get a $25 gas voucher or an Uber voucher for our disabled families or those that don't have cars. They can also come in and get food, and they can get clothing and furniture. What was the second part of that?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay, I have the shortest attention span.
Tell me some of the other cities.
Sure. We serve Gerald, Florence, Granger, Bartlett, Schwertner, and a portion of Hutto that lies in the GISD area.
Okay. Thank you, because I think some of us had the perception it was just a Georgetown thing, so that's good to know. Tell me a little bit about, are you open Monday through Friday? Is Saturday included with the donations and stuff? When do we bring those? So you're kind of your hours.
So for programs and services, that's where you get help. You can go online and fill out an application there and upload your documents. Programs and services to come in and speak to a case manager, that is open Monday through Friday from 9 to 4. To come into our store, that is open Monday through Saturday from 10 to 4. And then to make donations, that is the same time period, is from 10 to 4, Monday through Saturday. For our food pantry, that is open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. And that starts from 9 to 4 o'clock. And then on Thursdays is when we take our refrigerated truck and we go to Bartlett, Granger, and the Gerald, and we have a mobile food pantry for those that can't drive in.
I didn't know that. That's good to know.
I'm sorry, they changed all the hours, so I'm like...
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Sorry about that. We need a... Can you tell me a little bit about the history? I don't really know how the Caring Place got started, how long it's been, how you get your funding.
So we got started back in the 80s when there was an economic downturn. Do y'all remember that big one? I was like 15 years old working at Certified Savings, and people were just mailing in their house keys or sending us letters saying, we've left, sorry, we can't afford the house. But a lot of people were coming to Texas because people said there's jobs in Texas. So they were going to all the local churches and asking for help. So two ladies, Yoli Branson and Marty Maxwell, got together, went to the ministerial line, said, hey, we need one centralized place where people can go for help. So that's how we started out. We were given an old slaughterhouse on Rock Street by Carl Daring. He was the mayor at the time. We had 3 bags of clothes and like $17 in our drawer. And we were only supposed to be in business for 2 to 3 years until the economy got better. And we just hit our 37th year anniversary this year. So how does our funding come? This is one of my favorite things about the Caring Place. I have 2 disabled sisters, and so when I was looking for a job, I knew that they were treated fairly and kindly at the Caring Place, and that was not always the case in some of the agencies that were put into place to help them. So we don't get federal or state funding. Our funding comes from donations from our donors, from funding from our store. Our store last year made $1.7 million, and that's off of donated items. Our funding comes from St. David's Health Foundation, City of Georgetown, some other great foundations. But since we don't get federal or state funding, we are not pigeonholed on what we can help with. So the neat thing is, like, we had a mom come in, and she was asking for help for food, and our case manager asked her what the crisis was, and she said, you know, my transmission's going out in my car, and I can't afford to have it fixed. So because we're not pigeonholed, we were able to help her with the transmission. We called a mechanic that's one of our supporters. He reduced the rate. We paid for half of it. We called St. Vincent de Paul. They were able to pitch in some money. And so we got our transmission fixed. Because in our minds, it's better to fix that transmission and keep that mom employed than to say we can't help with your transmission and she's not able to go to work, and then we're trying to figure out how to help with rent.
Exactly. You just prevented that person from becoming homeless and the kids being in an unstable situation. I love that it's not pigeonholed. I didn't realize that, so that's good to know. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about food. We do have our little, what used to be a library box that our kids here had made and painted and all that. But it was really our kids in our church that said, we think that could be used for food. And so our congregation supports that little food pantry by bringing donations. Lou and I were here working one Saturday, and we noticed in a 4-hour time, we had 4 families come and visit that box. So yes, it seems to be needed. I'm sure that's what I wanted to ask you. Are you seeing an increase, and how are the food donations coming in? And I wanted you to touch on, you brought a flyer with you today. It's on the back table if some of you didn't receive it, about the value of donation versus the actual canned goods being donated.
So the first part is anyone who comes in for help to the Caring Place, we try to link them up with our food pantry. Families are given what's called a caring card. They're allowed to come in once a month, and at that time, they shop with a volunteer, but it's a free will food pantry, so they choose what their family likes to eat. They're given, it comes out to about $250 worth of food a month, and so we also have other feeding programs. So through our food pantry, and this is very important to remember, we are seeing 3 times the amount of people that we normally see. So last month, we provided food to over 3,700 people in our community. But there's also other feeding programs. So sometimes we see we have a senior citizen that came in. She said, I applied for food stamps. When we looked and saw how much she got $17 a month in food stamps. Some people, of course, get more because no one can live off of $17. But if you keep that little senior citizen in mind, who is a large amount of the people that come in, she can come into our food pantry once a month and get $250 worth of food. And we're real proud of our food pantry because we get meat, we get eggs, we get milk, we get cheese. So it's not just dry goods. She can also, anyone over, and I don't think anyone 55 is elderly, but this program is HOPE. It's healthy eating for the elderly. Now that I'm 56, I'm like, I think we need to call that something else. But anyway, but that anyone can qualify for that. It goes by income, but we look at many ways so we can say yes. So maybe your income's over the level. It's a program that's set up by Central Texas Food Bank, but we can ask, are you on insulin? Is your insulin costing too much? We look for ways so we can say yes, because in our minds, we want people fed. But anyway, they can come in and get once a month $250 worth of food from our food pantry. Then once a month, they get an additional week's worth of food through our Hope program. And then also families can come for fresh food for families. And that is the first, third, and fifth Monday of the month. I can tell you last week we were packing it, and so we had mangoes. We always have cabbage. I don't know why, but I've been there 15 years, and I think 14 years we've had cabbage. So everyone always gets cabbage. They got a bag of potatoes, some onions, some carrots. So it's really nice, healthy, nutritional food that they can come through and get through our food pantry. So that's our food program. And what was your other question with that?
So is it
Where
fair
does it come
to
from?
donate money or food to you?
So for a while we were saying money because we didn't have all our staff back or our volunteers. Now we're starting to ramp back up. And plus, when we're seeing 3,700 people, in the first 4 days of the month, we had 400 people come through our food pantry. So right now we're asking for donations of monetary donations, but then also any kind of breakfast item for the month of September. We're trying to do target synchronized things because what's happening is the economy is getting rough for everybody, and a lot of nonprofits go to Central Texas Food Bank to get food. So the list that they sent us is normally 4 pages, and it's shrinking down to like 1 page. So that's why we're now starting to ask for toiletries will be next month. Yes, and this month is any kind of cereal items, breakfast items.
So how will we know month to month what you want to focus on?
You could go on our website and it tells you what month we want to focus on something. But let's say for some reason you bought a whole bunch of peanut butter from Costco or something like that. You can bring it. We're not going to say, sorry, that's not the month. You can just bring it and come through our drive-through area and drop it off.
Does it still hold true, though, if I went out and spent $10, I'm only going to get maybe 2 or 3, crates of the food, where you can buy a larger quantity with that $10 donation through the Central Food Bank, is that right?
Yes, the Central Texas Food Bank charges us 10 cents per pound on food. And so we have more purchasing power there. The only problem is sometimes they don't have the food. Yes, thank goodness that now Costco, H-E-B, and sometimes Walmart is calling us when they have extra food, so we're sending our trucks out to pick it up, so that's really good.
Well, let's talk about housing a little bit, okay? A little shift here. So we've had some members in our congregation who have served on the housing board, advisory board of the city, and some that currently have worked with a new nonprofit that some of our members in our church started, the Georgetown Housing Authority. And we know that affordable housing seems to be a big issue, not just here, but definitely here. How are you let me ask this. Does the Caring Place do any advocating with city officials or county officials? And how would you help with housing?
So I'm just going to give you some numbers real quick because I like to hear about programs and nonprofits, but I also want to hear how many people is actually coming through. So last year, the total amount of people that we served, and we'll count them once, we call them unduplicated, but they might get 5 or 6 of our services when they come in, was 6,450 people. No, that's the whole year last year. But then we separate them out. They come to our food pantry for 6 months, every month. But this year, through July, we have already served 7,600 people for the year. So we're already over what we did for the total year last year. A lot of it is going into housing. So we're seeing about 150 people a month come through asking for help with housing. And so part of the problem is, do we advocate? We do have some of our employees that go to some of the meetings about affordable housing, things like that. I'm also a realtor, which I don't know if you know, but so the rents have gone up. Every month I send over to Erin, I go through our MLS system, which is the most updated, send it over to Erin so she can see what our rents are here in Georgetown. The average for 1 bedroom is $1,400. But what a lot of people don't realize is That's a lot of money. But remember in the old days when you rented a place and they said, oh, you're responsible for electricity, we got everything else covered? Now you rent a place for $1,400 in our community. You're responsible for trash, pest control, water, sewer. Some places parking. You have to pay for parking extra. So that $1,400 is actually like $1,600. So we are all on some of those committees. What I can ask, just because this is a little pet peeve of mine, is on affordable housing. Sometimes on affordable housing, I've been in meetings before where I've asked some of the people from affordable housing, well, what's your average rent? And how many apartments do you have at that average rent? And I was told by one person that it's really confusing. You almost have to have a law degree. Well, I'm a pretty smart girl. And he once you find out is maybe there's 100 apartments, but only 10 or 15 of those are at 50% of the rent. And then there's only like 5 additional that are 75% of the rent. So when they say affordable housing, in our minds, when I hear it, I'm thinking, oh, that whole apartment is affordable housing. It's not. It is a very, very small percentage. And I wish that we would stop giving them tax breaks for only having, say 20 apartments out of 100 that are affordable.
Or if they're going to get a tax break, let's like at 50. Half of it be affordable, right? All right. Let's talk about shopping. So we know you have a thrift store, and I see how much now that's a big fundraiser for you. Are there particular items that are helpful to have in the store? Who typically shops in the store?
So any items are helpful to have in the store. There are certain items that we can't take because the health department says we can't take them. So like we can't take mattresses or things like that. We do work, like let's say, remember when the apartment buildings burned a couple of years ago? So first Victim Services comes on scene from the police department. Then they call us for the Red Cross will be there also. So you get your initial couple of days from Red Cross, but then they call us and say, hey, we got approval from the families that the caring place can contact them. So how we circumvented not being able to take mattresses for people or bedding or things like that, but they still needed it from the apartment, is we went through all the local churches and said, how many families would you like to adopt? And so each church told us the number of families. We called individual families and said, are you okay with this church adopting you when you find a place to live? Because what happens after a fire is a lot of people come through and want to donate clothes and all this stuff. Well, you're living in your car or you're living in an apartment. So once they got their new place to live, they would call, say, okay, we're ready. We would call the church, give them all the ages and everything like that, and the church provided like the bedding and the stuff that we couldn't. Our stores, we have 2 stores. Has anyone shopped at our stores? There's Second Helping on Railroad, and then there is, Second Helping's on Williams Drive. There's shops at the Caring Place on Railroad. So our stores make $1.7 million. We're hoping more this year now that we're open more fully. But there's different people that shop there. So for one, any family that comes through that's in crisis, we provide them with that caring card. Remember I told you about for food? That's also loaded for clothing. So they can come through and get clothing for their children themselves. We just added extra money for families so they could get back to school clothing for their children. And then if someone comes forward and says, hey, I already used my money, but I got a job where I can only have black pants and a white shirt, well, we're gonna load that car some more. Also, if anyone, a lot of times we might get someone who's been homeless or a victim of domestic violence and they're finally getting their own apartment, then we can voucher out couches and kitchen tables and things like that. So it's open for our families in need. Then it's also open for anyone who's just thrifty and likes a good buy or is on a budget and needs reduced things. So yes.
Thanks, Rita. All right, let's get to what you really want to talk about. How do we volunteer and how do we support the Caring Place? And I think you brought some of these with you today.
So there's many ways to support the Caring Place and help. If you like to volunteer, Hans can tell you how fun it was, huh? We have about 72 different jobs at the Caring Place, volunteer jobs. So some are in our food pantry helping families shop. We actually have one lady that sorts socks, which God bless her. I could not do. We have case managers. Oh, and I wanted to tell you about our case management program real quick. But, so there's many, many different jobs, and we only ask that someone gives us 4 hours once a week of their time. That doesn't mean you can't go on vacations or anything. You just let us know when you're not going to be there, and we have someone fill in. So there's an application online. You can donate items either to our food pantry or our thrift store, or you can come in and shop at our thrift store or make a monetary donation. I did want to talk about our case management program, which we have. So sometimes we have families that come in and they say, I'm tired of living paycheck to paycheck. I want to better my life. I want to get out of this cycle. So they get enrolled into our case management program. So a lot of times we will link those families up with Capital Idea that helps people get an education, that the Capital Idea pays for it. And then we also pay for the rent and help with food along the way or any other expenses that might pop up. Another case that we helped with, we had a husband and wife. The wife has cancer. They're both in their 80s. They were living with their son. Well, their son had a heart attack and died unexpectedly. So they were sent to us by their church. And so yes, please. Sorry, I have horrible allergies. Thank you. So when their son passed away, they couldn't afford the rent where they were living with him. So they came into our case management program. We were able to find them a cheaper place to live. We were able to hook them up with a utility program for seniors. We were able to get them a cell phone through another program that we know about. And then also we were able to check out some of their medications and see if they pay cash, would it be cheaper? Which anyone can do through HEB or Walmart. Yes, yes. And so now they're able to live paycheck, they're able to live within their budget, and she's able to, she also is on our transportation program, so she can go back and forth to her chemotherapy treatments.
Rita, I learned a lot today. I had no idea all the variety of services, and it is filling a huge need in our community. Even though our community is probably doing all right economically, we still seem to have a lot of people in need or on the edge, don't we? So, folks, an easy way to help is if you would like to donate. We provided opportunities for you today. There is a Share the Plate envelope on the end seats. We are not doing a Share the Plate collection, but if you want to slip some money in there, you can. Or on the back social justice table, there's a Caring Place display there. Some envelopes in the basket are there for your convenience. You can always send a check to the church and earmark it for the Caring Place, or just mail it directly to them. I hope you'll open up your hearts and your pocketbooks and support this great program that we have in our community. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time, girl. You're doing a lot. I know we're running a little longer than usual, so I really appreciate everybody's patience and sticking with us. We're going to close out our service now.
Well, you've heard a lot today, so we've come to the end today. So we extinguish always our flame. We extinguish flame, not the light of truth that it represents, not to get rid of the warmth of community that we are celebrating today, or the fire of commitment to compassion and justice living in this world. We carry those things with us in our hearts as we leave here today. Amen. Go in peace.
Time for snack, coffee and drinks. Thank you, everybody, for your attention. Oh, I forgot. Can I just have one more minute of your time? We have a series of announcements. Today, know that your UU social justice team in Washington, D.C. is meeting, and they are marching to end the use of fossil fuels. Next week is our dedication to the Peace Pool. It's also a lay leader training session immediately after church. See Jan Robertson. There's information on the back table. The library is hosting on September 19th voter registration. I'm going to put this on the bulletin board. I hope you will find out more information on who Jesse Ames is. So that's your quiz there to figure that one out. Fiesta Georgetown is coming October 1st. It's a Sunday afternoon, 1 to 5, where we're going to celebrate Hispanic heritage. The reason I mention this, proceeds are going to benefit the Georgetown Promise Scholarship. That scholarship was started by members of San Gabriel UU and some of the friends in the community. And so that scholarship is earmarked to help students of color in the Georgetown schools. So we hope you'll come out for that event. Some of us are going to do some meeting today and brainstorming about moving the statue. There are postcards on the back table for you to send to your county commissioners if you feel so inclined. We're looking at maybe pulling together the churches and having an interfaith event to talk about that statue. And those of you that are worried about our public school system, there's a Boot the Voucher rally in October the 7th. We would like to form carpools from the church if we can. It's at noon at the Capitol. Lou's going to have one of these sign-up sheets. Keith has a sign-up sheet. So it's Boot the Voucher rally. It's a great chance for us to wear our yellow shirts. Am I missing anything, y'all?
Yes, you're missing an opportunity to let your husband make a shameless announcement of his own. I put a proposal in to Senior University. Many of you know about Senior University. It's an educational thing. It started with Southwest. Now you get a lot of people who have a lot of backgrounds that help teach classes. And I put a proposal in to teach a class on the role of race and racism in American history. And to my surprise, they accepted the course. And that starts on the 3rd of October, 5 sessions. It will be at the public library, but the beauty with a lot of Senior University things, you can sign up and do it by Zoom. You don't even have to leave home. So if you're interested in those kind of things, go look at the whole curriculum. There are a lot of courses. But I'm teaching the one on race and racism starting in October the 3rd.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Go now in peace.